Hey there folks, just a short video today following up on one of my many grafts from this spring. This is a wild sour cherry offshoot or root sucker. We are here under a dense canopy, and those tall trees here, easily 6 meters and more tall, they are the mother trees, and all those around are their root suckers, which I'll be grafting gradually in the season. Now for this sapling here, this is now a 2.5-year-old sapling. It will be the third growth year for this little tree here. And last year I grafted this tip, which you can see that it healed nicely and it grew and it branched out and even managed to set a couple of cherries here, which I'll be leaving just to see and to kind of remember which type of cherry I have grafted, because I don't keep a record. And already it has new growth tips on both of the branches, progressing nicely. So this side branch will be one of the varieties, and on this side branch I kind of side grafted, whip and tongue grafted in spring another variety as an experiment with the Scion with more buds. So you can see that it's developing nicely with 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 buds. Only 3 of them are not leafing out, but I hope that they'll be leafing out soon. And in this season those all will grow into separate branches. For comparison, the Scion which I grafted last year, it developed only 2 buds. This one, which became a branch, and this one, then another branch. And this bud here also developed somewhat, but it was damaged. And you can see that there's this tiny wound on the branch. And even though this Scion was longer and it only had 3 buds, this Scion is shorter and it already has 9 buds developed. So if all goes smoothly, by the end of the season I should have a nicely formed crown for another variety of cherry here. You can see that I have already removed the grafting tape and the cowsing is progressing nicely. When I was starting grafting, I was cautious not to remove this tape too early, but with my experience I found out that the earlier you remove the tape without it being too early, so there is some chaos already forming and the Scion won't snap out. So the sooner you remove the tape, the quicker the chaos hardens and the graft union becomes stronger during early summer. And here I had another Scion which took nicely last year, but a bird was it landed on the Scion and it broke the whole piece off. So I cut the whole branch out of the tree, and this will heal in the season, and this will be the new structure for the tree of 2 separate varieties. When you are grafting in a shady spot such as I am here, this is the south and the south is completely shaded, so this tree gets almost no direct sun during the day, maybe not more than an hour in June. You won't be seeing too much of a growth. They won't grow too vigorously upwards. Of course I could trim some of those and allow more sun to come in, but as you can see, those are already fruiting sour cherries on which we depend for our harvest. So it's always a balance in your specific context. And this is our elder tree, which is now starting to open its first flowers, just to check for ripeness. not much pollen yet, so maybe in a couple of days it will be ready to harvest. But under this very dense canopy, you can see here, there is another graft which I made 2 years ago. We'll just duck a little bit here in the shade. This is a way deeper shade than the tree which I already showed you. We are not only under the elder here, but also under a very large tilia tree on the side of the neighbors. So this is very deep shade, and this wild sour cherry was cut by my neighbor, which you can judge by the horizontal cut here. I'm always doing slanted cut so the water can run off, and I've been meaning to fix that maybe this year. 2 years ago I made a single whip and tongue graft on this side branch, and it healed perfectly. And you can see that in these 2 years it hasn't really grown much, but I'll try to go a bit backwards so you can see it's leaning towards the sun, so it's hugely imbalanced, and you can see that already it has nice fruit set on it. And curiously, this little grafted branch, it has a higher percentage of fruit set than the original Van cherry of which I took the scion. So maybe this microclimate here in the deep shade helps somewhat with the fruit set, I'm not sure. But this is the whole branch. It's maybe 1.5 meters, and it's slanting towards the sun here, trying to escape the deep shade of the elder. And those growth branches, they almost escape the shade, and you can see that this is where the most of the growth is happening, in that direction. Of course, if I let that continue for another year, this very small and tiny graft union will probably snap. So what I'll have to do with summer pruning after the cherries are ripe and we pick them is to trim the whole crown and shape it and keep it here in the shade, and maybe clean just a little bit of the canopy and see if I can make it grow a bit upwards. And then I'll also do a double tie here with one of those recycled plastic ropes which we get from our straw bales, and just tie this whole branch to the main stump, so there's not much stress on the union and here as well. And even lower, you can see that I did another graft. This tiny piece here was grafted again last year, so it's 1 year younger. And even that little piece, even in the deeper shade, even lower, managed to set fruit of a couple of cherries. And now it already has maybe 15 centimeters of new growth and very large and shiny and luscious leaves. So even in the most improbable of locations, grafting can give you very nice result and even some fruit set.